Okay. It's interesting. Torch thinks that the English opening is wrong. That's not exactly the English opening. It's part of it called the whale. Let's see what this opening is called. Whale variation. Yeah, this is one of the most common ways to continue 1c4, which is the English opening. We play symmetrically, my opponent and I, for a while here, which isn't all that bad for Black's best play, frankly. The position becomes even. Most often, it depends. And I decided to be the one to create the dynamic imbalance. After h6, I could play h3, and then we could again achieve symmetry by bishop e7. If Black plays bishop e7, thus two sides are symmetrical to one another throughout. I'll just designate that by these arrows here. So after after h6, I played h4 and continued. So you move knight d4. Is a good move. He's outposted this knight. He's not going to be there for very long, at least not if white has anything to say about it. I can, at any moment, trade knights on d4, and then when a pawn recaptures, that pawn will be hitting at my c3 knight, whereupon I can move my knight to d5, and again, the symmetry shows itself. Right? This could lead to symmetrical tendencies, though h5 will disrupt that overall. But for the other 7 files and 8 ranks, there will be symmetry. Bishop g4 exposes Black to this tactic where the capturing piece is hanging and also unveiling a battery on Black's attacking piece. And these tactics are going to work out in white's favor here. Just I had a pawn in material. That pawn is doubled for sure. It is also strongly supporting an extremely strong white center. Look at this center that white has built. Completely dominating the center of the board. Even as Black has 2 central pawns, including a pawn on e5 that's strong pointed, white is completely dominating the center. I like this move by Black. You trade a queen here, and then the domination in the center is just not as important as it was, because part of the reason to control the center is for mobility. The queens are off the board. Mobility, schmobility. So this is a strong move by Black. I believe the best response is indeed to capture, and then of course recapture. And let me tell you something else about this. White has this fantastic center and a possible outpost on d5, but short of the fact that the knight's outpost will be on a light colored square, this is still a good move for Black, because Black has the long range minor piece, and white does not. Trading queens makes sense on many levels. I'd say, save for the one fact that white's knight on when he moves to d5 is unassailable by any minor piece or pawn. You know, it's going to take a rook to try to get at that knight, and then even once captured, that knight is protected once and then twice, and white will stand a little more for the better in terms of material. Still, even so this idea with making black's dark squared bishop a stronger piece, being the most powerful minor piece on the board, is a good idea. Knight d5 kind of unseats that, and yet still I think the move we were questioning in the first place, queen g5, is a great move. I think that's a really strong move by black here. And I do I trade queens mostly because I thought that I could get something out of knight d5, including the immediate threat. So there's the outpost and having strong mobility as a result of that outpost, but also the immediate threat of knight c7 check, forking black's king and black's rook. And so I played knight d5, and with king d7, then knight b6 check leaves white ahead more material than just the sole pawn. This knight I did try to rescue, but black is way too quick in getting there first. So I tried to play against f7, and then maybe there would result some need to protect the f pawn with the rook in some manner, and then maybe later I would be able to rescue my knight from the a file, or from a8 rather. It just didn't work. My opponent plays the strong move pawn f6, and that actually is not all that bad for white either, or in any event, because black has a dark squared bishop, and the central and kingside pawns are just hopelessly locked on dark squares, and this bishop needs to find a way to break free. Two moves could do it: bishop e7 to d8, and then bishop e7 to d8, and then bishop d8 to a5 check. So now white has material advantage, and proper play should ensue. This rook to c1 is born out of the idea that, say, for instance, trades on the b file, probably capturing back. Black is probably capturing back with his a pawn to capture b5, and that lets black's rook become an active force in the game. And for that reason, I played rook c1. Keep black hitting at the back of his own pawn, and the a8 rook will have a lot of lateral scope, but hardly any vertical scope. And so we're playing a game of pressure on the c4 pawn. You can see it there, near the king, which isn't part of the pressure yet, but the b pawn and the rook on c8 are part of that pressure. And white just has one more piece to keep this all intact for white's king, I guess, for their side, for white's side. this is calculation. This is calculation. We're gonna reduce some material. Note that A5 here is a good nuance. Just save yourself some headaches, and you get this intermezzo. It's called an intermezzo. It's an in-between move. We know after black plays 24, rook takes c2, we know white's going to capture back. We can't just leave this rook here to be captured or anything like that. We know this is going to happen. But this intermezzo, this in-between move, there's no way black can do anything better than capture us back on a5. Then we capture the rook and do the calculation. All told, white is ahead by, as a result, you don't even have to calculate. As I do the calculation, you don't even have to calculate. White will be ahead by at least tempo. And I think if it works out the way I thought initially, white will be ahead by a pawn, and maybe a pawn and a tempo. But and any way you slice it, white's ahead by capturing on a5 with check before capturing on c2. You know, white could capture. Let's just, for argument's sake, white captures back, right? Best move here. A takes b4, and we've got 3 points of material, ever so important in the endgame, compared to the other method, where when all is said and done, I guess we still have 3 points of material. We have that tempo I mentioned, and what to do with the tempo but to play to c7 and maybe harass black's bishop. That's what we did. And here's that pawn I was talking about right there on g7. It wasn't what I thought it was on the a file or the b file, but I found it over here on g7. The pawn wasn't where I thought it was on the a file or b file, but I found the pawn over here on g7. And this is a simplification. You'll want to know the h5 pawn is way quicker than black's king in any event. All right. So we're gonna pin the bishop to the king, and then just a standard end game exchange sacrifice on b6. Right, the king can move out of the pin. It doesn't matter because he'll need that bishop, and he'll need to recapture my rook. He'll need to capture my rook on b6, and he does. And the pawn on the h file is queening, promoting and queening without much problem or difficulty. Alright. Phenomenal. What a great game. I am so glad about that game. And just to be fair to my opponent, he resigned after white's 38th move. For whatever that's important, then there it is. And this game here is, of course, the continuation of that game after the 38th move. All right. All right, well, thank you very much for watching. I'm More Gravity. Have a great lunchtime if you're here on the eastern coast of the United States. No matter where you are, have a great time.